Hey, Brian Castle here. I'm the founder of Clarity Flow, and today I'm back with another great conversation. I'm talking to Amanda Horvath. She is a coach, a videographer. That's her background, but she has grown. She's built an amazing audience and personal brand and YouTube channel through her personal brand at amandahorvath.com. So we talked all about her transition going from starting as a consultant, getting into offering courses, getting into coaching. Another thing that I love about what Amanda has built here is the focus on video and YouTube. So we got it a little bit into the technical side and doing video, but much more so, and this is much more her focus, is the human side, human design, as she talks about today. So that's another new thing that she's getting into, but it's all weaved together in offering yourself and putting yourself out there as a personal brand on YouTube, and it can have pretty incredible business results. So we heard a lot of interesting stories in Amanda's work with her clients, again through her coaching and courses and her content that she puts out on YouTube. So we covered a lot of ground. I hope you enjoy it. Here is my conversation with Amanda Horvath. Enjoy. Amanda Horvath, great to meet you on the podcast again. Here we go. How are you?
Yeah, I'm great. Glad to be here, making it happen.
Yeah. So, of course, your video and lighting and everything looks fantastic because it is what you specialize in as a coach. And what I usually like to do to start off these chats is, ask you about what you do, but I like to hear it from the perspective of, maybe an example of one of your recent clients. Someone who found your stuff and started working with you or started taking your courses. Who is that person? What are they doing? And what makes them kind of connect with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely been an evolution, as it always is for all coaches out there. So a little quick background is that I came from being a videographer that was shooting and editing videos for clients. And then in 2018 was like, people are spending so much money having me show up and hit record for them when they could just do this themselves if they could just use their phone to make it happen. And so I got online, started sharing YouTube tips on how to really film videos on your own. And fast forward to today, it's been 5 years since I started that process. And there's been an evolutionary process of not only focusing on the tech side of it, but also the emotional side of it, of how uncomfortable you can be getting on camera, and all the tips out there that are like, you should do Instagram every day, and yet maybe your energy doesn't match that or whatever. I'm so sorry. The baby monitor is on. Let me turn that off.
I mean, like just what you were just talking about. I love that you're kind of covering the emotional side and the presence on camera. I mean, that's by far the most difficult hurdle to get over. But when anyone kind of looks for content or instruction or courses or just YouTube content about doing YouTube's, like all I ever see is, what's the right camera to use? What kind of microphone should I use? What light should I buy? I mean, that stuff is important, or it's like how to optimize your YouTube channel and make thumbnails and stuff. But like the most important thing is actually speaking to the camera or, whatever content you're doing.
Yeah. And how do I know what to speak about? All that stuff too. So today, the clients that I really work with are coming to me. Let's use a specific example to your point. There's this one woman who I've been working with for several months now. She is an entrepreneur with her husband, and they know that they need marketing. Yet she's an entrepreneur that wants to spend the majority of her time running the business. And so they come to me and they say, okay, we want to expand into this new market. And their company does background checks, but she's also a mom of 2 and has gone through the process of being a mom and realized, what we do can actually be super beneficial to people that are wanting to hire nannies, because we can do background checks on the nannies. And so maybe we expand into an entirely new market. So we began to really talk through that marketing strategy. And, originally they're thinking of one idea of let's do a YouTube channel that's talking about background checks. And my whole approach to things is like, forget the business, you're the entrepreneur, and let's brand the entrepreneur. And from there, launch off with really a personal brand that can grow and evolve with you no matter what you choose to talk about in the future. So I've now incorporated this new system into it called human design, which is essentially a personality test based on when you were born. And so we really analyze someone's energy of how it operates and what their natural gifts and abilities are. And from that point, it kind of gives us a kickoff point to determine what is the message that you're here to share. Beyond just let's make money, let's brand it as who are you? And because you are who you are, you do what you do. And then from that place, let's look at who are we attracting? And then what's the strategy behind it? And then let's talk about what gear you need to make this happen and overcome the tech side of it too. So
Yeah.
it's really
Again,
a holistic approach.
Totally. Again, like starting with the person and their story. I mean, one of the things I was going to ask you about, I mean, that person, they're in a kind of a niche industry, like background checks and that kind of thing. Like, is there YouTube content to be made around that? Like, and I'm sure there's like 1,000 other, niche
Examples
industries
like
where
that.
it's just like, does this even lend itself to that type of marketing? But yeah, when you boil it down to, well, who are the people behind it? Why do you do this? How did you get into it? There's actually interesting content that that people can connect with, right?
Right. And there's so many different ways to go about marketing, right? So my point to her, what often happens with people that, and the audience is listening, you're likely an online coach, right? But maybe previous to being an online coach, because it really hasn't been that long in existence, a lot of people popped up in 2020 to do it. You were probably doing something else that was more based in person, right? So just like me, I was running a service-based business, shooting and editing videos for clients, and then popped online. And so it's based on kind of like a tangible skill. But the way that you can kind of like think about marketing is, okay, I'm expanding that network in terms of the kind of people that I can work with. So what ends up happening is you're a service-based business, you get online, you start talking about whatever it is that you do, but then the online opportunity becomes so much greater than the in-person opportunity that you decide to drop the in-person business and just go online. And so that transition is a very normal one. So from my perspective to her, it's like, hey, yeah, you want clients that might need your services for background checks for hiring a nanny. And there's probably other ways to make money with this outside of just that one purpose.
Yeah, this pattern seems to be coming up in a lot of these conversations where it's like, as in that example, yeah, maybe you can promote the business of background checks, but there are probably other people who run that same type of business and they're looking for content on how to do that sort of thing in their neck of the woods, right? Really interesting. So
Right.
one of the other things that I think you do a fantastic job of is really niching down yourself and your coaching and your personal brand and your offerings. I mean, I was just kind of going through your site and your products and everything. It's, you know, just like two words come into my mind just on like a 20-second browse of your website. I see video and I see YouTube. Like that's like the focus of what you do, And I mean, we see so many coaches who are like, well, you can do personal branding, but then there's like social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever it is. And it's like, you've really focused in, like, I'm kind of curious to hear that story. I guess we can start to get into your backstory. You mentioned you're in this 5 years now. How did you, like, what's your journey been like to really get into this level of focus?
Yeah. And it's currently about to expand into yet another. So I understand the pivot very well. That's, I think
I
that's
mean,
what
it's
leads to
like the story of my
success.
career here,
Yeah, exactly.
everyone.
Just
Yep.
constant pivots.
Yep.
Yeah. The wanting to burn it all down and start over, but maybe you shouldn't, the kind of energy. So,
Been
so
there too many
I
times.
really started my YouTube channel because I was annoyed that most people talked about YouTube only when it came to video marketing. I wanted to talk about how to create brand videos and how to create sales page videos and how to do Facebook ads and Instagram ads. Like there's so many other kinds of video tips out there. And then you get into it and then you realize, oh, this makes sense why people niche down to YouTube video marketing, because YouTube wants you to talk about YouTube. And it's kind of annoying because what's happening right now in general, no matter what platform you choose, it has its preferences in terms of the algorithm.
The algorithm. Yep.
And the algorithm is based on audiences as well, right? So there's an element that you kind of have to learn to play the game, and you have to go where the audiences are, where, what people are really searching for, what people are really liking. And so in the process of me going about that, I just realized, okay, well, every time I release a video about YouTube, it takes off, And granted, I think another example or another insight that can come from it is looking at your own story. So as I talked about Instagram, as I talked about LinkedIn, as I talked about all these other things, really I was focused on YouTube. And so the more that I got into my own YouTube journey, the more I realized the power of the platform and how you don't really have to have an Instagram. Like my Instagram, I had my son and I stopped posting because all I wanted to do was post photos of him. And everyone's like, this is not why I'm here,
Right.
And like the internal conflict of, do you really post your children online, all that. So I'm like, I'm just going to not touch this.
Yep.
And I make good money just from being a YouTube creator. So you don't have to be everywhere. So I kind of was like, you know what? What if I'm like the anti-hustle kind of person? What if it's just that?
That's what I've gone down the YouTube rabbit hole so many times and wanting to like do more YouTube, whether it's for my business or music stuff or other stuff. And one thing that I notice is sort of like what you're saying. Like, I feel like YouTube more than the other platforms, the tactics and strategies have become so formulaic on YouTube. It seems like, the thumbnails are all looking the same now. The content, the scripts, even like across industries, it's like the same like hits. I mean, and there's good and bad and different levels of quality and whatnot. But I don't know. It just seems like I definitely see that there's a lot of opportunity and there's still just a lot of like good connections to be had on YouTube. Maybe even more so than other platforms. But then YouTube is like its own beast in terms of the algorithm and just, I guess, human behavior and how they connect with video content,
Yeah. But what's interesting about it, like to play off of you, it's like, it's formulaic and that's why it's also awesome. Like
Right.
it's the same reason why we hate it, but the same reason we like it. Because
I mean, that's why I hate Google so much, right? It's like,
right.
like blog content. I never know how to like how to rank something this month compared to 6 months ago,
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's true. And it's like with YouTube, the way that I see it, like you could spend 2 years, and I've watched so many of my clients waste their time on Instagram. Because, and this is another reason why I began to niche down to YouTube, because I would spend hours in my DMs just responding to people. For me, Instagram was never scrolling. It was living in my DMs. And then I'd do a launch and I'm like, these people aren't actually converting. So it's really hard to distinguish between like who's your friend that is just like engaging with you versus who's someone that is genuinely a buyer. And that fine line requires you to like really lean in there. And sure, I did hire assistants to manage it and kind of filter people out a little bit and tested that for a while as well. So there's different strategies that you can do. But like with YouTube, if you start playing the game, you're going to have slow growth, period. Yep. It won't be the promised potential fast growth of TikTok or LinkedIn, Instagram. Maybe if you're doing reels and you got on it at the right time or whatever, but it's like at 6 months, I had 500 subscribers. At a year, I had 1,200. And then it at some point became exponential, like where I gained like 20,000 in like a 6-month period or something, So it's like, if you start on YouTube and you know how the game is played, you will be successful
Just
as
like the
compared to those other
consistency
ones.
of it, right? And not just like kind of blind consistency, but I think naturally by the act of showing up at least what, like once or twice a week, doing it for a long period of time, you're just going to get better. You're going to learn and you're going to connect.
You'll see what works, what doesn't work, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But I
I,
think it's a little bit more niche focused than the other platforms. It feels like,
yeah,
but
yeah,
yeah.
for sure. Especially just looking at like my feed of like the three things that I'm interested in, just constantly getting recommended to me.
Yeah. Looking at someone's homepage of YouTube says a lot about them.
Exactly. So I want to sort of break down your business from two perspectives. One is like your product line between the courses and coaching, and where people are connecting with you and finding you. And obviously a lot of that sounds like it's happening on YouTube. But I guess before we get into like the marketing and funnel side of it, so yeah, I mean, tell me like what's kind of like the lay of the land, like just from what I see on the surface level, and I'm sure I'm missing some things here. You offer courses, you offer coaching. I also see what appears to be some affiliate uh, products and revenue. And then I would assume, correct me if I'm wrong, there is like YouTube revenue just straight from YouTube. So yeah, like what's the breakdown? How does that?
Good job. There you go. That's it. Yeah. So it started, I was started my business. I did 2 years. I didn't sell anything online. It was all focused on my video business still and my YouTube business,
Like services, your
yeah, services, shooting and editing videos for clients. And I had like quite a bit, I had like decent clients and it took up a lot of my time, which was my whole goal of ditching that business was trading time for money. So I was actually anti-coaching in the beginning. I very much was like, I have zero desire to be a coach. I would rather do an online course. So I started in the online course business. So in 2020, I launched my first online course following Amy Porterfield's Digital Course Academy structure. And it was her first launch of that course. It's changed quite a bit right now. And she's launching currently as we speak. But the that did amazingly well because what happened in 2020? Everyone wanted to go online. So I
did
have
you do
this
this
thing.
like after COVID broke? Like this was like
No,
this
before
is before.
January of
Okay.
2020. So
Oh wow.
I had
Oh
basically
January.
done
Wow.
2 years of no selling, not selling anything, which I think is actually a big like thing. Everyone's talking about Alex Hermosi these days, and that's like his whole thing. He's like, I don't sell you anything, right? Like build that rapport, build rapport, build rapport. So I built rapport for 2 years, and then I came out with this course January of 2020, May of 2020. I was doing the live launch model in December of 2020. I did 3 launches, and
And well,
here's
just to pause there, the
yeah.
course was like what was the
Oh,
main
okay. What
topic?
was the course?
Yeah.
Yes. It's at first the name of it was the DIY video roadmap. Now it's called Launch with Video. So it's kind of evolved a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But the concept was, with each time that I launched it, I would iterate it based on feedback and make it better. So at first it was very much what to buy, how to set it up, and how to edit. Gear.
Okay.
All gear related. Then the next time I added in how to record, how to script, and how to record. So still focused on very much production. And then the next time I added in pre-production, more strategy, because at first I didn't want it to be strategy. So it grew over time to where now it also includes YouTube and it includes, mostly YouTube as well as just like brand videos or channel trailer, all the things. It's very choose your own adventure type production because you can film anything, but it's all based around production.
Yeah.
So that was 2020. 2021, I was like, okay, the live launch model isn't exactly what I want to be doing. Like this is kind of a lie that you're not trading time for money. Like you're not,
Yep.
but the amount of you're basically working for free instead until you do a launch.
Yeah.
And then it's like a big hustle push period. And
And
I came across, yeah, go ahead.
well, yeah, just to sort of clarify for folks, like
Yeah.
when you talk about live launches, like I guess
Yeah,
maybe
let's
like take
clarify
us
that.
through that a little bit, but I hear what you're saying, like compared to literally selling time for money as a consultant, as a contractor, doing video services, courses, info products are they're known as like passive income, but it's not passive at all when you're in the middle of a launch, right? So,
Yeah,
um,
it's not passive in that it's scalable.
right,
That's the difference,
yep,
right? So, what is a live launch? A live launch is when you prep to you have a cart open and a cart closed period.
mhm,
So you kind of have this pre-launch warm your audience up section. That might be for from a YouTube perspective, 4 weeks of talking about a subject that is all building on top of each other, that's getting someone started on the journey. And then you say, "Hey, I have a webinar coming out," right? This is kind of the standard, specifically like the Amy Porterfield kind of approach, who is a big course queen, course and webinar queen. For those of you that don't know it, she has a podcast, Online Marketing Made Easy.
mhm.
So you do that, then you get people on the webinar, and then from the webinar you make the offer at the end, and they have like a bonus that they can buy before. If you buy while on the webinar, you get this bonus. And then you have a very specific email marketing strategy that would close someone over the next however many days that the cart is open, which is always a testing thing. Oh, it's better to have a 5-day cart open or a 10-day cart open. It's slowly been getting more and more shorter, I would say, to incentivize
I think
that.
the other thing that I'm kind of curious about in this phase of your journey, you mentioned you started January 2020, and you were coming from doing services, but did you have any audience, like any sized audience at that point? Like, who were your very first people to come on, like the first webinar and things like that?
Yeah. So when I launched, I had 4,400 subscribers on YouTube.
Okay,
So
so
from
you had been doing like your
2018,
own content
yes.
before
So
that.
I launched YouTube in 2018,
Hmm.
and for 2 years, essentially, just shy. Well, I guess, yeah, just shy of 2 years. It was like 6 months shy of 2 years was when I did my first course launch.
Got it. And did you transition between? So if you were doing YouTube content for several years before you launched a course in 2020, what was the early YouTube content about? Was it just about having a presence and
It was
audience
still
on
building an online, it was very much, it was give, 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 give. That was the strategy.
Got it.
I, it was how to film using like the tagline was create videos without breaking the bank or taking up tons of your time.
Hmm.
And at the time, the idea of filming on your iPhone was pretty revolutionary. Today, it's like you kind of like, duh, it was so
Right.
obvious. But at the time, it really wasn't. Like, I remember when I first started my business trying to convince people that video was the next thing.
Hmm.
You know, by 2020, people became aware of it.
Hey, just a quick break to tell you about Clarity Flow. It's the software tool loved by coaches and their clients for communicating asynchronously in threaded conversations using video, audio, or text. My team and I designed Clarity Flow for the modern day coach. It lets you give clients a single place to engage with you and all that you offer through your coaching business. Run coaching groups, cohorts, and communities using our Spaces feature. Create interactive courses using our Programs feature. Build your coaching library with templates and reusable content. And sell access to your coaching programs with subscriptions or one-time payments. Customize colors and connect your domain to give clients a fully branded experience. You can use Clarity Flow on the web or our mobile apps for iPhone, iPad, or Android. And connect any other apps using our Zapier integration. Start with a free trial or request a personalized demo and consultation by going to clarityflow.com. Okay, so I guess like kind of fast forward, and we're in 2020, and the world is changing obviously, but your world professionally is changing as well here. So what does that transition start to look like? And
Yeah,
yeah.
because the leap can be pretty scary to go from trading time for money to like full course business,
Hmm.
which was my goal. I was like, no clients. I passed off my entire, so to kind of answer your question, in 2019, I was like, if I'm going to build an online course, I need time to build an online course. So I do have to kind of start to shift this model to a degree. And so I passed off my entire client book to my subcontractor and said, no more production. And I did a hard line in the sand. This is the burn the bridge thing that we're talking about, right? So I did that. And then I did do some consulting with my clients rather than coaching, right? It was more still that in-person consulting, go and just to help with strategy, but not production. I would pass off to production while I was building the course. So I'd say 2019 was that transition year to where it's almost like when you're in that transition and you're like, am I crazy for doing this? Like I'm making less money than I made before. I was making good money, like that kind of transition.
Yep.
And then, yeah, 2020 went well. Was able to hit six figures that year with those courses. So
Nice. I mean, this is something that I've in like podcasts and going back years, talking about making that transition from freelancing consulting to a business or from one business to the next. I mean, I've been through that transition several times too. And one thing that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough, and this is really going off track on the topic of this podcast, but I feel like it always involves some level of like, look, I'm just going to take a pay cut for a little while here, you know, or I'm going to do a whole bunch of stuff for free, or just this is my own project. Who knows where it's going to go? I mean, at the very least, you're going to learn a ton, you know, but it could be a massive change in, you know, for the better. So,
yeah, and it takes guts to do that, right?
yeah. And obviously you have to do it responsibly and have,
Yes.
you know, your runway figured out, but still like it, you know, I've seen many people just wait and wait until they can sort of hustle on nights and weekends to replace that full-time salary. And you just need a period of like, you're just going to make less for a little while, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And fingers crossed it works out.
Anyway, you know, kind of getting back on track with the story here. I'm curious to know as we move past 2020, you know, in more recent years here, like how has your business evolved? I know your audience has grown, YouTube presence has grown, and then we got into actual coaching. So like what does the mix look like and what were kind of the big turning points from there?
So what happened was in 2020, I was like, okay, done with course launches. Like let's try to go the evergreen route. Let's try to, which evergreen, to define that, is when someone can buy a course without you being active necessarily in it. They could buy it anytime
Like
on
totally self-serve.
open enrollment. Yeah. And I actually did have coaching, like monthly coaching with it. That was kind of the thing. But it was sold via an evergreen webinar. And that's a whole different marketing strategy, right? So it's funny, you originally asked about products, and somehow we have gotten into the funnel strategy along the way, but we're weaving it all together.
Exactly. Yeah.
So with that, in 2021, I kind of like set on it for a while because, little side note, because life happens, I found out about this thing called human design in 2020 in the midst of the course launch business. And when you go through any sort of personality type tests or awareness, often there's like this realization or this like waking up period where you're like, whoa, like I'm out of alignment here. Like, how do I get back into alignment? So I dove deep into that system to get back into alignment and gave myself kind of a bit of time to just kind of chill. And I didn't do much at the beginning of 2021. It's kind of interesting to look back upon. I think I was focusing on getting it to transition. And in that meantime, I was ramping up on my affiliate revenue, like you were mentioning, as well as passive income from ad revenue coming in from YouTube. And
So this idea of human design,
yes,
I mean, this is pretty new to me,
totally
I
no.
think.
Yes.
I mean, you know, I don't want this to be like a seminar on the topic or anything, but it's like my take on it so far, and I would love to hear more about it, is, you know, you're going through this professional transition and it's very public, like you're growing an audience and everything. So, is it like how you see and identify yourself as a professional and that sort of transition?
So essentially what it is it's a map for how your unique energy works. So this concept of like nature versus nurture, it shows you what your nature is, as well as how you were maybe nurtured away from your nature.
Hmm.
So it shows you the influence of your parents, of your friends, of your environment, and how you're kind of shifted into someone that is like maybe a little bit different than you were born to be. So I was really nurtured. My nature is to be a guide, which is where coaching started kind of coming in, because I operate way more one to one versus one to many, or one to, I guess, being the doer, really, in terms of getting my hands on something, actually making things happen. Like there's an element, there's 70% of the population is really good at that. And I am not. I'm actually a 20% of the population is here to guide the energy of others. So it
Even
was
though the early part of your career, like you were making stuff, right?
very much.
Yeah.
I was a super doer.
Hmm.
And so it was a big wake up call. And then, yeah, so I was leaning more into, I want to make passive income, and I'm going to live my life to make passive income. My goal was, I want to be, at the time I said a stay-at-home mom, but now I think it's more working at home mom. But I want to be a stay-at-home mom. I want to make passive income so that I could be a stay-at-home mom by the time that I'm 30, so that I can not put pressure on my husband to stay at home. That was like my goal since I was 25. And then I got pregnant at 29, which was that year, 2021. And it was a surprise. And my whole world about halfway through the year started shifting to, wow, I'm going to have a baby. I got to figure this out.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm like taking forever telling this story, but basically in 2021, by the end of that, I was like, I got to get my course on Evergreen. Let's actually make this happen. And so I used the pregnancy to focus on that. And by, I think halfway through the year, I think I launched it. And then I think I did a new iteration or something and launched it officially in February of 2022, right before I had my son in March of 2022.
Wow, amazing. I mean, one of the things that sort of jumped out to me was like you made this transition to passive income, and that worked out really well. But it sounds like what you learned is you thrive on being a guide and the personal connection and helping people directly. Is that where kind of like you dipped back into coaching and working directly with clients?
Yeah. So what happened was, fast forward through the postpartum period, I had set myself up for passive income, which was amazing. And that was the goal. And definitely everyone can do well with passive income. Like it definitely aligns with my energy to make money passively. But I was also like, you know what? It would be nice to not have to like market myself actively and get some sustainable clients. And so that's when I started thinking about, it was about 6 months postpartum, that I started flirting with the idea of, hey, what if I did do one-to-one coaching? What if I got out there? And so I, at this time, had been deep diving into human design, and I said, hey, I just released a video on the channel, which is one of the benefits of having an online presence and an email list, is you can throw ideas out there without really needing to do a huge launch. And I was like, hey, I want to work with people that want to use human design to create an aligned marketing strategy for them to launch their YouTube channel and potentially get in alignment with launching an online course. And that's really where the one-to-one coaching clients came from. And I never wanted to take more than 5 clients at a time, because working endless amounts of hours is not necessarily my goal either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how did you initially structure that? I guess as like sort of like an experiment, like taking on those first 5 clients. We can get into maybe how you've adapted it and changed it over time, but like, yeah, what did the actual structure and the offerings and all that
Yes.
kind of look like?
So it was 2 2-hour sessions a month, because I really wanted to do working sessions. So there's coaches that don't tell you what to do, and then there's coaches that are more like working with you. I definitely fall more on that latter part. Not just like a somatic person that's just going to ask you a million questions, right? Which is great.
And I'm
Socratic.
also
I
kind of
meant
curious
Socratic.
about like who is like a perfect fit as a coaching client for you, especially, someone like you with a large audience. There's got to be a wide variety of people who might be interested in coaching with you. But like, who is a perfect fit for you to work
Right.
with?
So that's always a journey, right, to find that. So those first 5 clients, I specifically, so it was like to your answer your question, it was 2 2-hour sessions a month, and then Voxer access to me in between those sessions,
Mm-hmm.
with the intention that we're, I would say, pushing the boulder uphill together. We're taking action together. So I intentionally chose someone that had like was not an entrepreneur, was in corporate world wanting to jump out. That was one client. There was another client, the one that I mentioned, that was an entrepreneur already running a business with her husband, wanted to add a marketing strategy. There was another client that was older, part of the older generation. Like, he would hate to hear me say that, but you know what I mean? Like he had recently pivoted from doing something entirely different, starting a new business, but also kind of new to the world of online, which comes with different tech hurdles. And
I'm hearing a lot of variety
a
in these.
lot of variety. So
Yeah.
I wanted to test different people to see who is my best client. And now I've learned I definitely don't want to work with the people that like I have to spend hours like walking them through how to set up their Dropbox or something minor in the process.
Yep.
I'd rather focus a little bit more on like the inner work of finding your message, but then when we get to like the tech side of it, there's not as much of a hurdle.
Is there a common thread with your clients where it's like they don't have any YouTube channel yet, like they're starting up from scratch? Or do you ever work with clients who like maybe they're at 2,000 subscribers, they want to go to 20,000? Like,
It could be either or.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times it's someone starting from scratch. It often can be, hey, I'm doing really well on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
but I want my efforts to compound. I want that, so I want to jump from Instagram to YouTube.
Got it.
That I would say would be the ideal, because they now just they've kind of figured out a little bit of their clients, of who they want to talk to. They maybe have even if they don't have a perfect offering, they're testing different marketing offerings, and we can kind of be a little bit more strategic in making that leap. And at the same time, because YouTube takes a long time to grow, ideally that person has a runway to where they're not trying to make money ASAP, because I think that the people that start a YouTube channel with the intention that I'm going to make money soon, those are the people that quit.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be like additive. Like you already have something going on. Like this can kind of, light it up.
Yeah, and I have started completely from scratch with people to develop their brand from scratch, but there's just those are the people that take a lot longer to get to launch.
Got it. So,
Sure.
just to kind of start to wrap it up here we are, end of 2023. You kind of mentioned that you're like kind of changing things
Pivoting
up
again.
again. I mean, what does this sort of look like? What's kind of on the horizon for you? I mean, again, it seems like you're so kind of focused and doing so well in this. Like, what's changing?
Yeah, so it's continued to be this thing behind the scenes of human design, and it's begun to kind of leak out into my content to the point where I had a couple videos take off within that niche, to where it got my attention of interesting, like this is another potential niche that I could move into. And the main debate that I've been debating really for the last 2 years, because I was already debating it when I found out I was getting pregnant or that I got pregnant, but I had to put all that on pause, was like, do I start a second channel or do I do it under one brand? And so this year has been really exploring, can I do it under one brand? And I'm getting to a decision point, or one channel, I should say, one YouTube channel. Now I'm getting to a decision point of I either completely let go of my video thing and do it on this new on the same channel, or potentially start a second one. And I'm doing a ton of investigation to make that decision, because I still do have a large audience that wants to start YouTube channels.
Yeah. That's got to be so hard. I mean, yeah, I've gone through that a little bit, not on YouTube, but like with like my email list and my general audience across different networks, like Twitter, email, podcasts, and like I've seen it dilute, and I feel like I've messed it up several times in the last like 10, 15 years, where like early on I was talking about like productized services, and then I got more into software, and there was a period where I was doing a lot of music stuff, and like these are like three totally different people in my audience, you know. Um,
And it's hard because it's you, like you are who you are.
right.
And I do think that this is where things are moving. And I think that the algorithms haven't quite caught up yet. But I do think that as they become smarter and smarter, they'll begin to distinguish what's what. Like if I release a video on video and then I release a video on human design, like they would know, oh, the human design audience is this subset, not this. And they might be able to serve it to those people. But what happens is I'll release a video on human design, it goes to the video people, no one watches it, so that video dies.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
guess when people like subscribe to you, they come with the expectation of like, well, I want more info on human design, but I'm not interested in this other stuff, right? So
Right.
interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
So it's like, how can you find that overarching message that they're actually not subscribing just to learn about human design? They're subscribing to, or video, but they're subscribing to create a life of freedom that is aligned with their energy.
Mhm.
And that might include this or that might include that or whatever it is. So I'm very much still in that exploration phase and it's unfolding messily. And that's the only way that you can move forward from here is how I see
Exactly.
it.
Well, you know, I guess maybe to wrap it up would be like, how can people actually kind of connect with you and follow along maybe in this transition? And I'm wondering, actually, the last question here is like, through your own website, is it amandahorvath.com?
Hmm.
And we'll get everything linked up in the show notes. But like, do you have like a personal newsletter where it's like, no matter, even if you end up having 2 or 3 different YouTube channels, like
Right.
the overall, like getting an email from Amanda is on this newsletter. Is that how you think about it?
I do. Yes. So my website's about to be completely redone because it doesn't mention human design at all. So I'm working with a branding coach, I'm working with an offer coach, I'm working with a YouTube coach. Like I think honestly, hire like if you're a coach and you don't work with people, it's a problem. Like there's a value to getting other people to help you. So I have a newsletter, and the best way to get on it is either to download one of my freebies, which is either the Quick Start Guide to Video, which is a 3-part video series getting you up and running with that, or the Quick Start Guide to Human Design, which is a 3-part video series that gets you up and running with human design.
There you go.
And if you follow my YouTube channel, in all of the descriptions, you can find both of those freebies and some others as well, including my webinar that I was previously mentioning. And that's definitely the best way to get on the newsletter.
I
And
mean,
to follow,
it's always fascinating to me, like obviously to get that content and learn about those topics, but you know, we're also talking to other coaches here, so this would be a great opportunity to see someone who has really put it together really well, just to see how all these pieces kind of fit together. You know,
well, thank you. I appreciate that. You
yeah,
never look at yourself and think you've put it together well. So,
I mean, it's always something, right? Well, Amanda, this has been awesome. You know, can't wait to see the next evolution. And yeah, thanks for doing it.
yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right.